Dr. Lee Hannah pressed her back against the cold metal door of the communications room. Her breathing came in short gasps as she listened to the sounds outside. Footsteps echoed through the hallway, but they were wrong somehow. Too slow, too heavy, like someone walking through thick mud. 3 days ago. Everything had been normal on Research Station. Kepler-4 for DC. Her team of 12 scientists had been studying the strange blue flowers that grew in the planet's northern valleys. The flowers were beautiful, almost glowing in the dim light of the distant sun. Dr. Kim Minho had joked that they looked like tiny fairy lights scattered across the ground. Now Minho was standing in the hallway outside, but he was not laughing anymore. He was not breathing anymore either. Hannah had watched it happen to all of them, one by one. First, it was Dr. Park Yuna who found the flowers. She had brought samples back to the lab, following all the safety rules they had learned. She wore gloves, used clean tools, kept everything sealed in special containers, but somehow it had not been enough. The change started small, Yuna complained, that her fingers felt stiff during breakfast on the second day. By lunch, her fingernails had turned a strange blue-green color, like the flowers she had collected. By dinner, her entire hand looked like it was made of crystal. "It does not hurt," Yuna had said, holding up her transformed hand to the light. The crystal was beautiful, catching the room's glow and throwing rainbow patterns on the walls. "It feels warm, actually. It's kind of nice." But Hannah had seen the fear in her friend's eyes. By the next morning, the crystal had spread up Yuna's arm. Her skin became hard and smooth, like polished stone. She moved slowly, as if her joints were stiff. When she spoke, her voice sounded hollow. It's like an echo in a cave. The others tried to help her. Dr. Choi Dashik ran every test he could think of. He took blood samples, skin samples, even tried to chip off a small piece of the crystal. Nothing worked. The transformation kept spreading. Then Dashik started showing symptoms too. Then Li Guan, then Kang Haijin. One by one, Hannah watched her friends and colleagues turn into living statues. They did not die exactly. They still moved around the station, still responded when spoken to, but their voices became strange and distant. Their eyes, now crystal blue, seemed to look through people instead of at them. The worst part was that they seemed happy about it. They smiled their crystal smiles and told everyone not to worry. They said the transformation was wonderful, that everyone should try it. They began gathering the blue flowers from outside and bringing them into the station. Hannah realized the horrible truth when she found them all standing together in the main lab. All 11 of her transformed colleagues stood in perfect rows, not moving, not speaking. Their crystal bodies caught the light and filled the room with an eerie glow. They looked like an army of beautiful, deadly soldiers waiting for orders. That was when she ran. Now she sat alone in the communications room, the only part of the station she could still seal off completely. The air recycling system here was separate from the main station. She had maybe 2 days of oxygen left, maybe 3 if she was careful. Through the thick door, she could hear them moving around. Sometimes they knocked, gently like they were, asking permission to come in. Sometimes they spoke in their hollow, crystal voices. "Hannah," came Yuna's voice through the metal. "Please open the door. We want to show you something beautiful." "The flowers are singing," added Minho's strange new voice. "Can you hear them? They want to meet you." Hannah covered her ears and tried not to listen. She knew that if she looked at them, if she heard too much of their crystal song, she might start to believe them. The transformation was not just physical. It changed how people thought, how they felt. It made them want to spread whatever had infected them. She turned to the communication panel and began sending distress signals. Her fingers shook as she typed out the emergency codes. The nearest human colony was 3 light-years away. Even if someone received her message immediately, it would take days for help to arrive. But the space around Kepler-4 for Tasi was not empty. Alien ships passed through this sector regularly. The Zenthari had a trade route that came close to this system. The Vex maintained patrol ships in nearby space. Even the mysterious Klaxons sometimes sent vessels through this area. The problem was that none of them cared much about human problems. Hannah had learned this lesson the hard way during her years working in space. When humans got into trouble, they could only count on other humans for help. The alien governments that made up the Galactic Council saw humans as useful, but not important. They were happy to trade with human colonies and buy human-made goods, but they did not risk their own people to save human lives. Still, she had to try. She broadcast her message on all frequencies, in all the languages she knew. Human Standard, Xanthari Tradespeak, Vex Military Code, even the clicking language of the insect-like Heek. "This is Dr. Lee Hanna of Research Station Kepler 44-C," she said into the microphone. "We have encountered an unknown pathogen that transforms organic matter into crystalline structures. My entire team has been infected. I am the only survivor. I am requesting immediate medical evacuation." She paused, then added, "The infection appears to be spreading through contact with alien plant life. This could be a threat to all organic species in this sector. Please respond." The communication board stayed silent. Only the soft hum of the station's power systems answered her. Hours passed. Hannah sent the message again and again, changing the frequencies, trying different languages. Her water ran low. Her food supplies dwindled to energy bars and recycled protein paste. Outside, her former colleagues continued their patient vigil. Sometimes she heard them talking to each other in their crystal voices, but the words were in no language she recognized. It sounded almost like music, like the wind chimes her grandmother used to hang on the porch back on Earth. On the second day, the knocking stopped. The voices went quiet. Hannah pressed her ear to the door but heard nothing. For a moment, hope fluttered in her chest. Maybe the transformation had run its course. Maybe her friends had found a way to fight it off. Then she looked at the security monitor. They were all there, standing in the corridor outside her door. But they were perfectly still now, like real statues. Their crystal bodies had grown larger, more elaborate. Strange patterns covered their skin like frozen lightning. Most disturbing of all, new growths had appeared on their backs, spreading. Like wings made of the same blue-green crystal, they were changing into something else. Something that might not be human at all anymore. Hannah slumped against the wall and closed her eyes. Her oxygen supply was getting low. The recycler was making strange noises. Soon, she would have to choose between opening the door and facing whatever. Her friends had become, or slowly suffocating in this metal box. She picked up the microphone one more time. "This is Dr. Lee Hanna," she whispered, her voice breaking. "If anyone can hear this, please remember that we tried to do good work here. We just wanted to learn about the universe. We never meant for this to happen." She stared at the communication panel, watching the signal strength bars flicker weakly. "I don't think anyone is coming," she said to the empty room. "I think I'm going to die here alone." The silence stretched on, broken only by the failing hum of her life support systems. Then, impossibly, the radio crackled to life. Captain Park Jin-ho rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the star charts floating above his navigation console. The cargo freighter Bazan's Pride was 3 days out from the mining colony on Arcturus 7, carrying a load of industrial equipment that needed to reach the Outer Rim territories before the month ended. It was not glamorous work, but it paid the bills. Jin-ho had been running cargo between human colonies for 8 years now. Ever since he left the Colonial Defense Force, his ship was old but reliable, and his crew was small but trusted. Captain called Kim Soo-jin from the engine room. Weird. Getting some weird interference on the long-range sensors, Jin-ho pushed himself out of his chair and walked back to where Soo-jin was working. She was bent over a control panel, her dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail. Grease stains covered her work clothes, but her hands moved over the controls with practiced skill. "What kind of interference?" Jin-ho asked. "Looks like a distress signal," Soo-jin said, frowning at the readouts. "But it's weak, really weak. Like whoever is sending it doesn't have much power left." Choi Dae-ho looked up from his position at the navigation station. He was the youngest member of their crew, barely 25, but he had a gift for reading space currents and finding the fastest routes between systems. "Where is it coming from?" Dae-ho asked. Soo-jin worked the controls for a moment, then pointed at the main display. Kepler 4 to see. That little research station in the dead zone. Gano knew about. Kepler 4 for to see. It was one of those remote outposts that human scientists used to study alien life forms. The kind of place that most people forgot existed until something went wrong. Can you clean up the signal? He asked Sujin. Nodded and began adjusting the communication array. After a few minutes, a woman's voice came through the speakers. She sounded exhausted and scared. This is Dr. Lee Hanna of Research Station Kepler 44 to see. We have encountered an unknown pathogen that transforms organic matter into crystalline structures. My entire team has been infected. I am the only survivor. I am requesting immediate medical evacuation. The 3 crew members looked at each other. They all knew what this meant. Someone was in serious trouble, and they were probably the only. Ship close enough to help. How far away are we? Jinho asked. Daeho checked his charts. About 18 hours at maximum burn. Captain, we don't have medical facilities. We're not equipped for a biological emergency. We definitely don't. Have hazmat gear, Sujin added. If there's some kind of infection involved, we could all get sick. Jinho listened to the message play again. The woman's voice was getting weaker each time she repeated it. He could hear the desperation in her words, the fear that no one was coming to help her. It reminded him of another voice, another message. 3 years ago, his sister Minji had sent a distress call from her transport ship when pirates attacked her convoy. The Galactic Council had received the message, so had several alien patrol ships. But none of them had responded fast enough to save her. The official report said that Minji's ship was in disputed territory. The alien governments did not want to risk their own people for what they called acceptable losses. Human lives were not worth the trouble. Ginho had never forgiven them for that. Set course for Kepler 4 for to see, he said quietly. Captain Daeho protested. We're not a rescue ship. We don't know what we're flying into. We're the only ship in range, Jinho replied. If we don't go, she dies. And if we go, we might all die, Sujin pointed out. This pathogen thing sounds serious. Ginho turned to look at both of them. They had been working together for 2 years now. They trusted each other with their lives every time they fired up the engines and jumped between star systems. But this was different. This was asking them to risk everything for a stranger. I'm not ordering you to do this, he said. If you want, we can report the distress call to the authorities and continue our route. That would be the smart thing to do. The authorities won't do anything, Daeho said bitterly. You know they won't. Humans don't matter enough to the council. That's exactly why we have to go, Jinho said. Because no one else will. Sujin was quiet for a long moment, staring at the engine readouts. Finally, she sighed and began adjusting. The power distribution. I'll need to reroute energy from the cargo bay heating systems, she said. And we'll have to dump some of our non-essential supplies to reduce weight. But I can get us there in 16 hours if we push the engines hard. The mining equipment we're carrying, Daeho said slowly, some of it might be useful. We've got industrial plasma cutters, atmospheric processors, even some basic medical supplies. Ginho felt a surge of pride in his crew. They were scared, but they were willing to help anyway. That was what made humans different from the cold, calculating alien governments. Humans did not abandon each other, even when it was dangerous. Well, right, he said. Sujin, start modifying our equipment.
Daeho, find us the fastest route to Kepler 4 for to see. I'll try to contact Dr. Hanna and let her know we're coming.
As his crew got to work, Ginho sat down at the communication console and began broadcasting on the same frequency where they had heard the distress call.
Dr. Hanna?
This is Captain Park Ginho of the cargo freighter Business Pride. We have received your distress signal and are en route to your position. Please respond if you can hear this message. He waited, hoping for an answer. The radio stayed quiet for several minutes. Then finally, a weak voice came through. Captain Park, this is Hanna. I can't believe someone is actually coming. I thought everyone had given up on me. We don't give up on people, Jinho said simply. We'll be there in 16 hours. Can you hold out that long? I think so, Hanna replied, though she did not sound very sure. But Captain, you need to know what you're getting into. This infection, it changes people. It turns them into something else. My entire team is still alive, but they're not human anymore. How dangerous are they? I don't know. They seem peaceful now, but they're different. They want to spread the infection to others. And the alien plants that started all this, they're still growing outside the station. Jinho processed this information. It sounded like they were flying into a situation that could easily kill them all. The smart thing would be to turn around and let someone else handle it. But he thought about his sister Minji, dying alone in space while alien patrol ships decided she was not worth saving. He thought about all the times humans had been written off as expendable by the powerful alien governments. We'll figure it out when we get there, he told Hannah. Just stay alive until then. Over the next several hours, Jinho's crew worked frantically to prepare for the rescue mission. Sujin took apart their mining equipment and rebuilt it into makeshift tools they might need. She created a portable plasma cutter that could burn through metal doors. She modified their atmospheric suits to work as basic hazmat protection. Daeho studied everything he could find about Kepler-4 for to see. The planet was mostly empty, with only the research station and a few automated weather monitoring posts. But the files mentioned strange electromagnetic readings from the northern valleys where the scientists had been working as they flew through space toward the distant planet. Ginho kept thinking about what they would find there. A woman trapped in a room, slowly running out of air. Her friends and colleagues transformed into something inhuman, an alien infection that could kill them all. It was exactly the kind of situation that sane people avoided. But Jinho had learned long ago that sometimes being human meant doing insane things for the right reasons. His sister had died because no one was willing to take risks for her. He would not let the same thing happen to Dr. Hannah. 16 hours, he said to himself, watching the stars streak past outside the viewport. We'll be there in 16 hours. At the distance, Kepler-4 Fortescue waited for them like a small, deadly puzzle they would have to solve. The Byzant's Pride dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler-4 Fortescue system. Captain Park Jinho stared at the planet through the main viewport. It looked peaceful from this distance, just a small blue-green world spinning slowly in the light of its distant sun. I'm picking up the research station, Daeho reported from his navigation console. It's on the northern continent, just like the record said. But Captain, there's something else. What is it? Ginho asked. Defense systems.
Activated some kind of automated security grid.
I'm seeing force shields, weapon platforms, even patrol drones. Sujin looked up from her engineering station. Doesn't make sense. Research stations don't usually have heavy defenses. These aren't human systems, Daeho said, studying his sensors more carefully. The energy signatures are all wrong. This looks like alien technology. Zenthari design, maybe, or possibly Vex military hardware? Jinho felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Are you saying the aliens put weapons around the station? It looks that way. The whole area is sealed off. Nothing gets in or out without authorization codes. As if to prove his point, warning signals suddenly filled the communication channels. A mechanical voice began speaking in several different alien languages. Ginho recognized some of the words from his years trading with non-human species. Quarantine zone established, the voice said in heavily accented human standard. Biological contamination detected.
Ow.
All vessels maintain minimum distance of 1,000 kilometers. Violators will be destroyed. 1,000 kilometers, Sujin whispered. We can't even get close to the planet from that distance. Jinho opened a channel to Dr. Hannah. Her voice came through weakly, filled with static. Captain Park, I can see you on our sensors. Thank you for coming, but I think it's too late. The station's AI has been taken over by some kind of alien override. System? It activated about 6 hours ago. What kind of override? Jinho asked. The AI started speaking in languages I've never heard before. Then the defense systems came online. I think someone doesn't want anyone getting near this place. Can you disable the systems from inside? I tried. The AI won't respond to my commands. Anymore? It's like something else is controlling it now. Jinho looked at his crew. Daeho was shaking his head slowly, while Sujin was running calculations on her engineering console. Captain Sujin said, I'm looking at the power distribution of those defense systems. They're drawing energy from the planet's main power grid. If we could somehow overload that grid, we might be able to create a temporary blackout. How long would that take? I don't know. And even if it worked, we'd only have a few minutes before backup systems kicked in. That's not enough time to dock and get Dr. Hannah out safely, Daeho pointed out. Jinho studied the tactical display showing the research station and its surrounding defenses. The alien systems formed a perfect bubble around the facility. Any ship trying to approach would be detected long before it could reach the surface. But Jinho had not spent 8 years running cargo through dangerous space without learning a few tricks. What if we don't try to dock? He said slowly. What do you mean? Sujin asked. I mean, what if we don't use the normal entrances at all? What if we make our own entrance? Daeho stared at him. Captain, are you talking about ramming the station? Not. Ramming, controlled demolition. We use the mining charges we're carrying to blast through the station's outer wall. Then we go in through the hole we make. That's completely insane, Sujin said. The station could decompress. The structural damage could bring the whole thing down. Dr. Hannah is in the communications room, right? That's in the center of the station, built to survive emergencies. If we're careful about where we make the breach, we might be able to get to her without destroying the whole facility. How exactly do we survive this plan? Daeho asked. Because last time I checked, our ship isn't designed for atmospheric combat. Jinho was already moving toward the cargo bay. We modify it, Sujin. How long would it take you to rig up some kind of atmospheric shielding for our hull? Using what? We're a cargo ship, not a military vessel. We've got mining equipment, industrial grade, plasma cutters, metal fabrication tools, even some basic armor plating for the heavy machinery. Can you work with that? Sujin thought for a moment, then began pulling up schematics on her tablet. Maybe if I'd strip the plating from the mining gear and weld it to our hull, I might be able to create some protection. But it won't be pretty, and it definitely won't be regulation. Regulation doesn't matter if we're all dead, Ginho pointed out. Over the next 4 hours, the crew of the Bison's Pride transformed their humble cargo ship into something that looked like it had been built by someone who had never seen a real spaceship before. Sujin welded metal plates to the hull in overlapping patterns, creating a rough but effective armor shell. She rerouted the ship's power systems to feed energy to the mining equipment. They had mounted on the outside. Daeho calculated approach vectors and tried to find the best place to breach the station's wall. He studied the building plans that Dr. Hannah had transmitted to them, looking for structural weak points that wouldn't cause the whole facility to collapse. Meanwhile, Ginho suited up in one of their modified mining exoskeletons. The suit was bulky and awkward, designed for working in zero gravity around asteroid mining operations. But Sujin had added extra armor plating and a more powerful life support system. It would have to be enough, right? Jinho said over the CUM system. Here's the plan. We're going to approach the station from the dark side, using the planet's magnetic field to hide our energy signature. The defense systems are designed to detect ships coming from space, not from the planet's surface. That means we'll have to fly through the atmosphere, Daeho said. Our ship isn't built for that kind of stress. It'll hold together long enough, Sujin assured him, though she didn't sound completely confident. Once we're close enough, I'll use the mining charges to blast a hole in the station's wall. Then I go in alone to get Dr. Hannah. Captain Sujin protested. You shouldn't go in by yourself. We don't know what those infected people are capable of. That's exactly why I have to go alone. If something goes wrong, you two can still get away. But if we all go in and get trapped, then Dr. Hannah dies anyway. The approach to Kepler-4 for DC was terrifying.
Ow.
The Bison's Pride shook and groaned as it entered the planet's atmosphere, its improvised armor glowing red-hot from the friction. Warning lights flashed all over the bridge as systems strained beyond their limits. Hull temperatures approaching critical levels, Sujin reported, her voice tight with concentration. Defense grid is still active, Daeho added. But they haven't detected us yet. The magnetic interference is working. Through the viewport, Jinho could see the research station growing larger ahead of them. It looked small and fragile against the vast landscape of the alien planet. But he knew that somewhere inside that building, Dr. Hannah was waiting for rescue. 30 seconds to breach point, Daeho announced. Ginho activated the mining charges mounted on the ship's hull. The explosive devices were designed to crack open asteroids, but they would work just as well on the station's reinforced walls. Dr. Hannah, he said into his cum unit, get as far away from the outer walls as possible. We're coming in hard. Ready, Captain, came her weak reply. 10 seconds, Deho said. 5 seconds. Contact. The mining charges detonated against the station's wall in a brilliant flash of light and debris. The Bison's pride flew through the hole it had created, its armor scraping against the twisted metal of the breach. Inside the station, emergency lights were flashing and alarms were screaming, but Jinho could see movement in the corridors. Figures that had once been human were walking toward the breach point, their crystal bodies reflecting the emergency lighting in strange patterns. I'm going in, Jinho said, grabbing his plasma cutter and heading for the airlock. Be careful, Captain, Sujin called after him. Jinho sealed his helmet and activated his suit's thrusters. As he flew through the hole in the station's wall, he could see the crystallized research team gathering in the corridor ahead of him. They moved slowly, but with purpose, like they knew exactly what they were doing. Dr. Hannah, he said into his cum. I'm inside. Where are you? Communications room, level 3, section C, she replied. But Captain, they're between you and me. My former colleagues can see them on the security monitors. Don't worry about them, Jinho said, raising his plasma cutter. I'll find a way through. The first of the crystal creatures turned to look at him. It had once been a young man, but now its features were smooth and perfect, like a statue carved from blue-green stone. It opened its mouth and spoke in a voice like wind chimes. You should not have come here, it said. This place is changing. This place is becoming something beautiful. Yeah, well, Jinho replied, igniting his plasma cutter. I've never been. Much for beauty. He began cutting his way through the station, heading for the communications room and the woman who was counting on him to save her life. Captain Park Jinho cut through the station's metal walls like they were paper. His plasma cutter sent sparks flying in all directions as he carved a path toward the communications room. Behind him, the crystallized crew members followed at their slow, steady pace. They did not run or shout. They just walked, like they had all the time in the world. Dr. Hannah Jinho said into his cum unit, I'm almost there. Get ready to move fast. I can hear the cutting, Hannah replied. Her voice was getting weaker. Captain, my oxygen is almost gone. I think I have maybe 30 minutes left.
You'll
have fresh air in 5 minutes, Jinho promised. He reached the door to the communications room and began cutting around the lock mechanism. The metal was thick, designed to keep the room sealed during emergencies. But it could not stand up to industrial mining equipment. The door fell inward with a loud crash. Inside, Dr. Lee Hannah was sitting on the floor, leaning against a wall. She looked terrible. Her face was pale and thin from days without proper food. Her left arm was covered in patches of blue-green crystal that seemed to pulse with their own. Light, ma'am, Jinho said, stepping through the doorway. I'm your blessing. Hannah stared at him in amazement. I can't believe you're real. I thought I was hallucinating. Oh, knelt down beside her and checked her condition. The crystal growth on her arm was spreading slowly, but it had not reached her vital organs yet. She was weak, but mobile. Can you walk? He asked. I think so, Hannah said, struggling to her feet. But Captain, we have a bigger problem. The infection isn't just affecting people. It's in the air system now. Every breath you take in here is dangerous. As if to prove her point, Jinho's suit sensors began beeping warnings. The air around them was filled with microscopic crystal particles, too small to see but large enough to be detected by his equipment. How long do I have? He asked. I don't know. It took 3 days to fully transform my colleagues. But you're breathing it directly through your suit's filters. Jinho picked Hannah up in his arms and began moving toward the exit he had cut. Then we better move fast. Getting back to the ship was harder than getting in. The crystallized crew members had spread out through the station, blocking the most direct routes. They did not attack or threaten, but they stood in the way, speaking. In their strange musical voices. Please stay, one of them said as Jinho carried Hannah past. It had been a woman once, but now its features were smooth and perfect, like carved stone. The change is beautiful. You will understand when it happens. To you, Thanks, but I'll pass, Jinho replied, using his plasma cutter to melt through another wall. By the time they reached the breach point where the Bison's pride was waiting, Jinho was breathing hard inside his suit. But the crystal particles in the air were starting to affect his equipment. His helmet display flickered occasionally, and he could feel a strange tingling in his fingers. Captain Sujin's voice came through the com. We've got incoming ships. 3 Galactic Council vessels just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding that we surrender immediately. How long before they get here? Jinho asked, helping Hannah through the hole in the station wall. Maybe 20 minutes, Daeho replied. But Captain, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. They're saying this whole planet is under quarantine. Anyone who has been exposed to the infection has to be turned over to Council authorities. Ginho got Hannah safely aboard the ship and sealed the airlock behind them. He knew what Galactic Council quarantine meant. Anyone who might be infected would be taken to a sterile facility and studied like a laboratory specimen. If they were lucky, they would die quickly. If they were unlucky, they would spend years being experimented on. Get us out of here, he ordered. Where to? Away, Daeho asked, already working on the navigation controls. Anywhere but here. We need time to figure out how to help Dr. Hannah. The Bison's pride lifted off from the planet's surface. It's improvised. Armor glowing from the heat of atmospheric exit. Behind them, the research station grew smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny dot on the planet's surface. But their problems were just beginning. Captain Hannah said weakly from the medical bay where Sujin had taken her, the infection is still spreading. I can feel it moving through my body. And now that you've been exposed, it will start affecting you too. Ginho looked down at his hands. The tingling sensation was getting stronger, and he thought he could see tiny flecks of blue-green crystal forming under his fingernails. How long do we have? Sujin asked. I don't know, Hannah admitted. The infection seems to work differently. On different people? Some of my colleagues changed in hours. Others took days. Is there any way to stop it? Daeho called from the bridge. I've been thinking about that, Hannah said. The infection responds to electromagnetic fields. It's how the crystal structures grow and connect to each other. But human neural implants use similar frequencies, so our brain implants might be interfering with the infection, Sujin asked. Possibly. Most alien species have different neural patterns than humans. Their implants work on different frequencies. That might be why this infection was designed to work on them, not us. Ginho felt a spark of hope. Are you saying we might be able to fight this thing? Maybe, but we would need to find the right frequency, the exact pattern that could disrupt the crystal growth without damaging our nervous systems. Sujin was already moving toward the ship's communication array. I can modify our broadcast equipment to generate specific electromagnetic pulses, but I'll need to know exactly what frequency to use. The problem is testing it, Hannah said. We only get one chance. If we get the frequency wrong, we could make the infection worse. Or we could fry our brains. For the next several hours, as the Bison's pride flew through empty space, trying to avoid the council ships, the crew worked frantically on a solution. Hannah used her scientific knowledge to analyze the crystal samples from her infected arm. Sujin rebuilt their communication system into a medical device that could generate precise electromagnetic fields. Daeho monitored their position and kept them hidden from the pursuing vessels. The breakthrough came when Hannah noticed something strange about her neural implant readings. The tiny computer chip in her brain, which normally just helped her access databases and communicate with ship systems, was generating unusual patterns. Look at this, she said, showing the readings to Sujin. My implant is fighting the infection. It's not winning, but it's slowing down the crystal growth. The frequency, Sujin said, studying the data. Your implant is broadcasting on a frequency that interferes with the crystal formation. But it's not strong enough, Hannah pointed out. We need to amplify the signal, make it powerful enough to actually reverse the infection. I can do that, Sujin said, connecting cables between Hannah's neural interface and the modified communication array. But the power requirements are enormous. We'll have to drain almost all of our ship's energy into this one attempt. What if it doesn't work? Daeho asked. Then we drift in space until the council ships find us, Jinho said. But if we don't? Try. We all turn into crystal statues anyway. Do it, Hannah said firmly. Sujin activated the electromagnetic pulse generator. Energy flowed from the ship's engines through the communication array and into Hannah's neural implant. The modified system amplified her brain's natural frequency and broadcast it. Throughout the ship, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The crystal growths on Hannah's arm began to glow brightly, then started to crack and crumble. The tingling sensation in Jinho's fingers stopped, and the blue-green flecks under his nails faded away. It's working, Hannah said in amazement, watching. The crystals fall off her arm like old scabs. Infection is breaking down. But their celebration was cut short when the ship's lights went out. The electromagnetic pulse had drained their power systems completely. Emergency power only, Sujin reported. We've got maybe 6 hours of life support left. The council ships are still out there looking for us, Daeho added. Ginho looked at his crew and their rescued passenger. They had solved one problem, but now they faced an even bigger challenge. They were drifting in space with no power, carrying evidence of a conspiracy that powerful people wanted to keep secret. At least we're not turning into crystal statues, he said, yet Hannah added darkly. Captain, there's something else you need to know. This infection, it wasn't natural. Someone made it. Someone wanted to see what it would do to organic life forms. Who would do something like that? I don't know. But whoever they are, they're not going to be happy that we survived. Outside, the viewport, the stars shone coldly in the darkness. And somewhere among them, ships were hunting for the small cargo vessel that had dared to rescue someone the galaxy had written off as expendable. The Bizon's Pride drifted through space like a ghost ship. Emergency lighting cast long shadows in the corridors as the crew worked to restore power to their damaged vessel. Captain Park Jinho floated in the engine room, helping Kim Sujin. Splice together burnt cables. We can get life support back online, Sujin said, wiping sweat from her forehead.
Hey.
But the main engines are fried. It'll take days to rebuild them with the parts we have. Days we don't have, Choi Daeho called from the bridge. I'm picking up search patterns from those council ships. They're getting closer. Dr. Lee Hannah was in the medical bay studying samples of the crystal infection under a portable microscope. The cure had worked on both her and Captain Ginho, but she wanted to understand exactly what they had been fighting. Captain, she called out, you need to see this? Jinho pushed himself through the zero-gravity corridors to where Hannah was working. She had several pieces of crystals spread out on the examination table, each one glowing faintly in the dim light. These aren't natural, Hannah said, pointing to the crystal structures. Look at the molecular patterns. They're too perfect, too organized. Someone designed these things. Designed them for what? Trollhana said grimly. The crystals don't just change organic matter. They network together, sharing information. Everyone who gets infected becomes part of a larger system. Ginho felt a chill run down his spine. I mean, the people who got infected, they're all connected somehow? More than connected? Share thoughts, memories, experiences. It's like they become parts of a single mind spread across multiple bodies. That's horrible. It gets worse, Hannah continued. I found something in the station's computer files before you rescued me. Research data that doesn't match what my team was supposed to be studying. She pulled up files on her tablet showing documents written in several different languages. Some were in human standard, but others were in alien scripts that Ginho recognized from his trading days. These files talk about something called the Pacification Project, Hannah explained. It's a program designed to control rebellious populations across the galaxy. The crystal infection is just one of many biological weapons being tested. Biological weapons, Jinho repeated slowly. Someone is making diseases to control people. Not just someone. The Galactic Council itself, or at least certain members of it. They've been testing these weapons on isolated populations for years. Hannah showed him more files, each one more disturbing than the last. Reports about entire colonies being infected with mind control parasites, planets where the population had been replaced with obedient artificial beings, star systems that had been completely sterilized when the experiments went wrong. My research team wasn't studying alien plants, Hannah said. We were test subjects. Someone wanted to see how quickly the crystal infection could spread through a small human population. But why humans? Jinho asked. We're not a threat to the Council. Most alien governments barely consider us worth noticing. That's exactly why we make perfect test subjects, Hannah replied bitterly. If the experiments fail and we all die, who's going to complain? Who's going to investigate? The Council can just mark it down as another tragic accident in dangerous space. Ginho thought about his sister Mingi, killed by pirates, while alien patrol ships decided she wasn't worth saving. He thought about all the times human colonies had asked for help and been ignored. It had never been indifference. It had been deliberate policy. How long has this been going on? He asked. According to these files, at least 50 years, maybe longer. The pacification project started small, with experiments on primitive species that no one would miss. But it's been growing. They're testing more advanced weapons now, preparing for larger operations. Operations against who? Hannah was quiet for a moment, then pulled up one more file. This one was marked with symbols that Ginho didn't recognize, but the human translation was clear enough. Phase 7. Human Colonial Territories. Hannah read. Target population, 43 million. Estimated pacification time, 6 months. Recommended deployment, crystal infection variant C7 modified. For enhanced neural integration. The meaning hit Jinho like a physical blow. They're planning to use this thing on all the human colonies. Every independent human settlement in this sector, Hannah confirmed. The ones that have been pushing for self-governance, the ones that don't want to follow council regulations. They're going to infect them all and turn them into crystal puppets. When the files don't say exactly, but some of the dates suggest it could be soon, maybe within the next few months. Jinho floated in the medical bay, trying to process what he had learned. 43 million people. Men, women, children, all turned into crystal statues that looked human, but thought with someone else's mind. We have to warn them, he said finally. Warn who? Hannah asked. The colonial governments? The human defense forces. How do we prove any of this? These files could be fake. The crystal samples could have come from anywhere. Who's going to believe a cargo ship captain and a research scientist who escaped from a quarantine zone? Someone has to believe us. Even if they do, what then? The Council controls interstellar communication. It controlled the trade routes, the military patrols, even most of the news networks. They can make our evidence disappear. It can make us disappear. Sujin's voice came over the ship's comm system. Captain, I'm getting some power back online. But we've got a bigger problem. Long-range sensors are picking up a Council strike force heading this way. 6 ships, including at least 2 heavy cruisers. How long? Jinho asked. 4 hours? Maybe 5 if we're lucky? Jinho looked at Hannah. Can you copy those files? Make backups we can hide somewhere. Already done, she said, holding up several data storage devices. But Captain, even if we get away from the Council ships, where do we go? Every human colony is a potential target. Every government facility could be compromised. We find people we can trust, Jinho said. People who care more about saving lives than following orders. And how do we do that? Before Jinho could answer, Daeho's voice came over the comm again. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission. It's on an old emergency frequency, the kind smugglers and independent traders use. Put it through. A woman's voice filled the medical bay, speaking with the crisp accent of someone from the core worlds. This is Captain Sarah Kim of the Independent Freighter. Inchin Star. We intercepted reports of a quarantine situation in this sector. Are there any survivors in need of assistance? Jinho and Hannah looked at each other. It could be a trap. Council could be using fake rescue signals to draw them out. But it could also be exactly what they needed. Another human ship whose crew might be willing to help spread the truth. What do we do? Hannah asked. We take a chance, Ginho decided. He activated the comm system. Inchin Star, this is Captain Park Jinho of the cargo vessel Bizen's Pride. We have survivors aboard and urgent information about the quarantine situation. But we're being pursued by Council forces. Understood, Bizen's Pride. Transmit your position. We'll try to reach you before the council ships arrive, Captain Kim, Ginho said. What I'm about to tell you is going to sound crazy, but human lives depend on you believing us. I'm listening. The quarantine isn't what the council says it is. We have evidence that they're using biological weapons to test mind control on human populations, and we think they're planning something much bigger. Was a long pause. Then Captain Kim's voice came back, harder than before. Captain Park, how many people are we talking about? Every human colony in this sector, 43 million people. Another pause. Send me your evidence. All of it. If what you're saying is true, then we need to get this information to people. Who can do something about it? Who did you have in mind? The Human Colonial Liberation Front. They've been trying to prove council corruption for years. If anyone will believe us and act on it, it's them. Jinho felt a spark of hope. The Liberation Front was considered a terrorist organization by the council, but they had support among independent human colonies. If anyone could organize resistance to the pacification project, it would be them. Can you get us to them? Asked, I can try. But Captain, once we do this, there's no going back. The council will mark all of us as enemies. It will be fugitives for the rest of our lives. Ginho thought about the crystal statues that had once been Hannah's research team. He thought about 43 million people facing the same fate. He thought about his sister Mingy and all the other humans who had died because the galaxy considered their lives expendable. Captain Kim, he said, sometimes being human means doing the right thing, even when it costs everything. Understood. Transmitting rendezvous coordinates now. And Captain? Yes. Welcome to the Resistance. 6 months later, Dr. Lee Hanna stood in the main laboratory of the hidden research station called Haven's End. The facility was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. It's completely invisible to council sensors. Around her, dozens of human scientists worked frantically on the most important project in human history. The countervirus is ready for final testing, announced Dr. Park Young-ho, Hannah's new research partner. He had been working with the Human Colonial Liberation Front long before Hannah arrived with her evidence about the pacification project. Are you sure it will work? Asked Captain Sarah Kim, who had become one of the leaders of the resistance movement. Sure as we can be without testing it on a real infection, Hannah replied. She looked at the vial of clear liquid in her hands. It contained modified versions of the crystal pathogen, but these crystals had been reprogrammed to help instead of harm. The breakthrough had come when Hannah realized that the crystal infection could be turned against itself. Instead of creating mindless slaves, the crystals could be made to enhance human neural networks, making people smarter and more connected while keeping their individual personalities intact. The test subjects from New Soul Colony are ready. Captain Kim reported. 20 volunteers who were infected during the Council's latest experiment. If this works, we can save them and prove that humans can fight back. The volunteers had come from one of 3 colonies that the Council had secretly infected as part of their expanded testing program. But word of the pacification project had spread through the human underground network, and many colonies were now prepared for attacks. Captain Park Ginho entered the lab, still wearing his ship captain's uniform. He had become one of Haven's End's most important couriers, carrying the countervirus to infected populations across human space. The shipment is ready to go, he announced. 50 doses of the countervirus, plus instructions for local production. That should be enough to treat the entire Kepler-7 colony. Any word from the other operations? Captain Kim asked. Good news and bad news, Jinho replied. The good news is that we've successfully treated infections on 12 different worlds. The countervirus works every time, and people are keeping their memories and personalities. What's the bad news? The Council knows we're out here. They're starting to hunt us actively. 3 of our courier ships have been intercepted in the last week. Hannah nodded grimly. She had expected this. The resistance could not stay hidden forever, especially not when they were actively interfering with Council operations. There's something else, Ginho continued. The people we've treated with the countervirus, they're not just getting better. They're getting stronger. What do you mean? Hannah asked. I mean, they can do things that normal humans can't do. Enhanced reflexes, better memory, improved problem-solving abilities. And they can communicate with each other over long distances, kind of like telepathy, but using technology. Hannah felt a thrill of excitement. This was what she had hoped for, but hadn't dared to expect. The countervirus wasn't just curing the infection, it was making humans better. How much better? Captain Kim asked. See for yourself, Jinho said, activating a communication screen. The display showed a woman with patches of silver crystal visible on her skin, but her eyes were bright and intelligent. This is Commander Lee Min-jae from New Seoul Colony, the woman said. Dr. Hannah, I wanted to thank you personally for what you've given us. How are you feeling, Commander? Hannah asked. Like I've been sleeping my whole life and just woke up, Min-jae replied. The Crystal Network lets us share information instantly across the entire colony. We solved our water shortage problem in 3 hours by combining the knowledge of every engineer and scientist in our settlement. And the council doesn't know? They think we're still infected with their version of the virus? Our people can act normal when council inspectors visit, but the rest of the time, we're working together like we never could before. Over the following weeks, the pattern repeated across dozens of human colonies. The countervirus spread through underground networks, carried by brave ship crews who risked their lives to help their fellow humans. Each treated population became stronger, smarter, and more capable of resisting council control. But the real test came when the council launched their largest operation yet. Incoming transmission from Admiral Chen of the Colonial Defense Force. Captain Kim announced during one of their regular strategy meetings. He says it's urgent. The main screen displayed a stern-faced man in military uniform. People of Havens. End. This is Admiral Chin Hunhua. The Council has just announced Phase 7 of the pacification project. They're planning to infect all major human colonies simultaneously in 72 hours. Hannah felt her stomach drop. 43 million people, just as the stolen files had predicted. Do we have enough countervirus? She asked. Not even close, Dr. Park admitted. We'd need thousands of doses, and we only have a few hundred ready. Then, we need a different approach, Captain Kim said. Can we stop the Council from deploying their infection in the first place? Ginho was studying star charts on his tablet. Their main production facility is on Zinthari Prime in the capital system. If we could somehow sabotage their operation, ... That's suicide, Captain Kim pointed out. Zinthari Prime is the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. Not if we use the abilities that the countervirus gives people, Hannah said slowly. Enhanced humans can work together in ways the Council has never seen before. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that 50 enhanced humans working as one mind might be able to do things that no one expects. The plan that developed over the next day was completely insane. A small team of countervirus-enhanced humans would infiltrate Zenthari Prime using captured Council ships. They would use their shared intelligence network to coordinate a perfect operation, moving like a single organism with 50 bodies. Captain Jinho volunteered to lead the mission, along with Commander Min-jae and 48 other enhanced humans. From various colonies, Dr. Hannah insisted on going with them, since she understood the technical aspects of the biological weapons better than anyone. The infiltration itself was almost too easy. The enhanced humans could predict and counter every security measure because they were thinking 50 steps ahead as a group. They moved through the facility like water flowing around obstacles, always finding the path of least resistance. When they reached the main laboratory, they found something that made Hannah's blood run cold. Thousands of vials containing different versions of biological weapons, each one designed to control a different species. The Council wasn't just planning to pacify humans. They were planning to enslave the entire galaxy. Change of plans, Hannah said. We're not just stopping the human operation. We're ending this whole program. Enhanced humans worked with perfect coordination, downloading files, destroying research data, and sabotaging production equipment. But most importantly, they released the countervirus formulas on every communication channel they could access. By the time Council security arrived, the damage was done. The information was spreading across the galaxy faster than it could be contained. Every species that had been targeted by the pacification project now knew about it. Every government that thought they were safe learned that they were next on the list. The revelation triggered the largest rebellion in galactic history. Species that had been enemies for centuries united against the Council. The Zenthari military overthrew their own government when they learned about the secret weapons program. Even the mysterious Klaxon emerged from their hidden territories to join the fight, and at the center of it all were the humans, no longer seen as primitive or expendable. The enhanced humans became leaders and coordinators, using their networked intelligence to organize the resistance across dozens of worlds. The war lasted 3 years. When it ended, the old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by a new alliance, based on cooperation instead of control. Species that had been victims became partners. The biological weapons were destroyed, but the counter-virus technology was shared freely with anyone who wanted it. Dr. Hannah established the Institute for Biological Freedom, dedicated to preventing anyone from ever again using disease as a weapon. Captain Ginho became an admiral in the new Alliance fleet, commanding ships, crewed by humans and aliens working together as equals. But the most important change was in how the galaxy saw humanity. The phrase, "Ma'am, I'm your blessing," became a symbol of hope across 1,000 worlds. It meant that no one would be abandoned, no matter how impossible the situation seemed, because humans had learned something that their enemies never understood. The strongest weapon in the universe was not a virus or a crystal or a fleet of warships. It was the simple refusal to give up on each other, no matter what the cost. And when the next distress call echoed through space from some impossible, dangerous place, hundreds of ships changed course immediately. Because being someone's blessing had become more than just words. It had become the foundation of a new civilization built on the idea that every life mattered. No one had to face the darkness alone.